Colin Cowherd is back on the Caitlin Clark train, and he's back calling out the haters. Now, he wasn't the only one that decided to get in on the action, man, because NBC reporter Kate Scott also called out the WNBA for pretty much snubbing Caitlin Clark.
Rookie sensation, year 2, last year she's hurt. Year 3, okay, her stats are great again. When is she going to start winning at the next level? She has not won a playoff series yet. And so my take is she has her Pippin. Kelsey Mitchell was a player that got some MVP votes.
The talk has entirely changed from highlight reels to coaching upheaval, locker room conflict, and one enraged tirade from Colin Cowherd that ignited the sports world. The Caitlin Clark hype train was supposed to be unstoppable. Fans started making connections that no one wanted to discuss as soon as he demanded that Stephanie White be replaced. Is coaching the main focus here, or is there more going on behind the scenes? What are people missing?
Out to all of the people saying, no, you guys are clickbaiting. Caitlin likes Stephanie. There is no tension in that locker room. There is nothing going on with the Indiana Fever organization. And at this point, Caitlin Clark's brother had liked some New York Liberty post when fans were stating how they wanted her to go to New York at the time of Sandy Bordello. There has been a lot of growing debate over Caitlin Clark getting out of Indianapolis. Now, this is an attack on the city of Indianapolis. This is an attack on the Fever front office.
From the moment Caitlin Clark joined the WNBA, everyone anticipated that she would encounter harsh fouls, antagonistic fans, and constant defensive pressure. But no one anticipated that the Indiana Fever's biggest issue would originate from their own sideline.
For a second. So, I'm not locked in on WNBA yet, right? And I see your guy, Strauss, what's his face? Strauss, you know the guy.
Ethan Strauss.
Ethan Strauss. He put out a big article about Caitlin Clark's struggles, and I started looking online like an idiot, right? If you get diagnosed with something, you don't Google it because it's all negative stuff. I start looking up Caitlin Clark, and all these people are saying she's washed, she was overrated, she leads the league in turnovers, okay? No. She's shooting 3 for 16. It's a 2-game sample size when she just missed almost all of last season.
However, it is precisely what transpired following Colin Cowherd's ferocious national television tirade, which suddenly transformed an already stressful basketball scenario into one of the most combustible arguments in women's sports.
Arguably the best playmaker in the league, arguably the second best three-point shooter in the league. I don't know, they seem valuable Olympic competition, and she's not on the team. But yesterday, they also announced the skills competition for the WNBA All-Star team. And she didn't make that either. So you argued she wasn't good for the Olympics. Your argument, though I don't buy it, but it was your argument, women's basketball, that she would be a distraction. So isn't the perfect place to put her in the skills competition? Now what is it? Pettiness, gatekeeping, insular, dumb? They're trying to get her to pay.
Millions of irate fans already thought that something was seriously wrong with the way the Fever were managing their generational superstar. So when Cowherd publicly stated that Clark needed a new coach, it went viral in the basketball world.
Came across some more clips of Caitlin Clark and the coaching staff arguing with each other, but not just like a disagreement, but like high-level anger and animosity towards each other. And it happened on multiple occasions in the past game between the Fever and the Seattle Storm. So we've got to talk about this and set things straight. I want you to look at this first clip. It's Caitlin Clark on the bench talking to Brianne January, but it's not your regular conversation between a coach and a player. Caitlin Clark is obviously upset, and she kind of just goes off on.
The biggest concern that any sports fan has when a once-in-a-generation talent joins a losing team is what caused this debate to blow up so fast. Because rebuilding teams are supposed to suffer, fans can put up with losing games for a while. However, they cannot put up with the idea that a superstar's brilliance is being curtailed by antiquated ideas, dubious choices, or a system that is unable to change. Cowherd just become the first prominent media figure brave enough to publicly express the concern that has been subtly surrounding the Fever for weeks without tempering the criticism. Stephanie White, a reputable basketball expert with years of expertise and a solid reputation around the league, is at the center of this storm. Even many detractors recognize White's achievements and grasp of the game, and she is not seen as an inept coach. But intelligence and work ethic are no longer at the center of the controversy surrounding her leadership. It has to do with fit. Basketball history repeatedly demonstrates that even gifted coaches are not always the best fit for transformational superstars, particularly when it comes to players whose abilities necessitate a whole different offensive philosophy, because Caitlin Clark is an unconventional player who doesn't fit into the typical basketball systems. This is where the discourse around her becomes fascinating. Every game she plays is immediately altered by her intense speed, long shooting range, erratic inventiveness, and aggressive offensive mindset. The issue is that teams that are prepared to cede control to elite offensive engines are increasingly rewarded in modern basketball.
Agreement, the Caitlin Clark hate is just out of control at this point. I mean, you got Colin Cowherd getting up there today on the herd saying that the wow factor is over and she needs to win a playoff series when she's literally setting WNBA records every night. Tyrone Johnson saying it was just some Linsanity run. Like, come on, dude, what are we doing? Caitlin Clark could literally sleepwalk into a WNBA game and she still finds herself putting up stat totals that either rival or surpass the guards in WNBA history. Through her first 55 games, she has more points than Diana Taurasi already.
In the early stages of the season, fans started to notice symptoms of tension almost quickly. Even though Clark was the most dangerous scorer and passer on the court, there were times when he hardly touched the ball. She occasionally lost possession of the ball while players who weren't as explosive started the attack. One of basketball's most explosive transition players became a spectator inside her own offense at times when the pace drastically dropped. Every time it occurred, social media users became more irate because they could not comprehend why the Fever was reluctant to completely unleash the star who revolutionized collegiate women's basketball. Then came the game versus the Washington Mystics, which turned into the emotional focal point of the whole dispute. Under intense defensive pressure, Clark struggled for 3 quarters. Critics started preparing the typical overreactions that follow every challenging performance from a celebrity athlete that energized the audience because her shoots were not falling regularly and the offense appeared stagnated. Despite Indiana's final overtime loss, Clark's performance served as a reminder of why she attracts so much attention and enthusiasm. She has the unique power to totally change a game's emotional intensity in a matter of minutes.
That's like the most unfortunate aspect of Caitlin Clark's game. That the part that truly makes her special, which is actually her passing, not her shooting, and her vision and her ability to create for others. It doesn't, plus minus doesn't really hit. Because again, you need the players around you to be able to hit. So it's just like, her stats are always going to be somewhat misleading. Again, perfect example. Last game, 20 potential assists. 20 potential assists. And it's just like, if the women around her were actually on and could make layups and stuff, we'd have been like, Caitlin Clark just had a 20 assist game.
That kind of effort typically turns into a pivotal post-game moment where the head coach publicly commends the star player who has kept the team afloat. Rather, the press conference held after the game turned into fuel for an already raging fire. Fans anticipated a direct acknowledgement of the individual greatness they had just witnessed when Stephanie White was particularly questioned about Clark's spectacular fourth quarter. Rather than focusing on Clark specifically, White emphasized the team's overall unity, perseverance, and group mindset since basketball is essentially a team sport and coaches frequently refrain from singling out one player unduly in order to preserve locker room chemistry. White's remarks were technically correct. Supporters accused the coaching staff of trying to push Clark into a system that did not make the most of her skills, downplaying her greatness, and failing to fully embrace her star power. That incident served as the catalyst for Colin Cowherd's critique to become widespread in national sports, rather than just requiring tactical changes or improved spacing. He maintained that she requires a coach whose whole focus is on making the most of her special abilities. He likened her predicament to the early phases of other legendary basketball careers, when organizations came to the realization that greatness could not be controlled or handled carefully within inflexible institutions.
Stephanie White the benefit of the doubt at the beginning of the season, but right now it looks like she is sabotaging Caitlin Clark's numbers. She wants to win the way Coach White wants to win. And I'm not saying that just because she took out Caitlin Clark with 8 minutes left in the game, only up by 14, and didn't let her come back. Comebacks happen. We saw that in the Aces game. I'm talking about when she hits a couple three-pointers multiple times in the first quarter and gets taken out within the first 4 minutes, like she did this game. If minutes restrictions were important.
Because basketball fans have seen similar stories in the past, the similarities struck a chord. Traditional coaching beliefs and the flexibility needed to unleash top creativity frequently clash when transcendent players join professional competitions. While some superstars flourish when given total freedom over the attack, other coaches place a higher priority on structure, balance, and discipline. Finding the ideal balance between individual genius and organizational structure becomes a challenge. Cowherd's remarks further heighten the idea that the Fever are already under a lot of pressure. Even though the season is still extremely early, fans sought instant success from a franchise that had suffered for years prior to Clark's arrival, and expectations grew unrealistic almost instantaneously. Because of this pressure, every choice feels more significant than it would in a typical basketball setting. A change becomes contentious. A sluggish offensive possession is a sign of dysfunction. Tension in the locker room is conveyed by a disgruntled countenance. Every night, the Fever appear at the center of the tempest that is modern sports culture, which lives on constant commentary. The story was further heightened by the leaked sideline video that showed Clark and the coaching staff clearly frustrated.
Has already set the record. She had another game in which she had at least 20 points and 10 assists. And I have been saying when she broke into the league, people said her comp is Steph Curry. Now, I think stylistically, the way she plays her game has got some Steph Curry. I think, though, in terms of an iconic player, she's more Michael Jordan. So Jordan walked into the NBA. He was a rookie sensation. Year 2, he got hurt. Year 3, he was like the best player in the league, arguably, and he then needed his Pippen, got it in year.
In actuality, highly competitive athletes inevitably collide with authority during stressful situations, resulting in frequent emotional exchanges between players and coaches in professional sports. However, every emotional exchange now feels symbolic since followers already perceive deeper conflict. Basketball games are no longer the only thing that viewers watch. They are looking for signs that Clark's relationship with the coaching staff is failing. Ironically, part of the criticism aimed at Stephanie White highlights how difficult it is to teach a superstar with Clark's level of notoriety. Fans accuse White of stifling Clark's brilliance if she promotes team basketball. However, the criticism endures because many viewers think the answer is clear-cut. They want Clark's playmaking, shooting gravity, and pace to be the focal points of the Fever attack. They want the ball in her hands all the time. Instead of conventional systems based on balanced touches and controlled possessions, they prefer quick transitions, aggressive spacing, and a style that represents the contemporary progression of basketball.
Cheryl Seuss is somebody that pointed it out all last year was her turnovers, and many other people that like to criticize Caitlin Clark and the things she does on the basketball court. But one thing they cannot deny is she's leading all WNBA players as of right now in scoring, and she's on a roll to being the WNBA MVP. Now, there was a poll that came out. She was going to be second behind A'ja Wilson, winning his MVP. Now, they got to go and redo the whole damn thing because Caitlin.
The intriguing aspect is that the franchise's future may be shaped by this controversy. The criticism will soon subside, and this entire affair may appear to be an early season overreaction driven by internet hysteria and television drama if White is able to adjust and Indiana starts to win regularly. However, criticism from supporters and the media will become unavoidable if Clark's difficulties persist and he consistently shows signs of frustration with the system. That's why Cowherd's remarks were so important. His tirade turned an intense online conversation into a respectable national sports debate. Every victory serves as confirmation, and every defeat serves as fuel. The Fever are now in a position where the conversation is no longer dominated by basketball alone. Superstar management, fan expectations, media pressure, and public opinion are all colliding at the same time. Depending on how the franchise reacts, that combination could either lay the groundwork for future success or signal the start of organizational instability. In the end, the most significant reality concealed beneath all of this drama is that everyone is hoping for the same result. Because Caitlin Clark is one of the most thrilling athletes the sport has ever seen. Fans want her to be successful.
Glad you're back. No. I'm not talking about because the threes are falling. I knew that would happen. I'm saying I'm glad you're back because that psycho from Iowa is back. The one saying, give me the ball is back. The one who ain't trying to lose is back. Not the one who's trying to suppress her game because that's what her coach wants. And the one who can't hype the crowd up because the assistant coach is too busy trying to grab her arm and she's a mom and shit. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about that killer that we all fell in love with. The one that we followed from college to the WNBA. She's back and she better stay here. She better stay here. I get it. You're new to the WNBA. You got a coach. You should respect your coach. Check it out, B. Stephanie White is an op as far as I'm concerned. She's come up.
Because of the tremendous attention her popularity has brought to the league, the WNBA wants her to succeed. Because transformational superstars permanently alter franchises, the Fever want her to succeed. Since coaches are evaluated on their performance, Stephanie White most likely wants the same thing, and Clark offers Indiana its best opportunity to regain relevance at the top level. Finding the right course of action before the pressure becomes too much is the difficult part. If Indiana fully adopts Clark's advantages and starts to win, this dispute might be overlooked in the development of a future dynasty. With each game that goes by, the criticism surrounding Stephanie White will only grow more intense if perplexity, annoyance, and inconsistent offensive philosophy continue to dominate the conversation. And whether conventional coaching methods can last in a time when superstar-driven offenses are becoming more and more prevalent. The Indiana Fever's future, as well as the course of one of the most significant careers in women's basketball history, could be decided in the coming months. The fact that Caitlin Clark is not just another gifted rookie attempting to gradually establish herself in the league adds to the complexity of the situation.
Told you Caitlin Clark's biggest obstacle isn't an opponent or a different team, but it's actually her own coach, Stephanie White. We're 4 games into the season, and there is a clear philosophical difference with Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White and how the offense should look. And it looks like Stephanie White is just trying to micromanage and put a cap on Caitlin Clark and what she could do offensively. Even when Stephanie White has the chance to praise her best player, it's the rare occasion where coach is kind of hesitant to shout out their best player. It's a weird dynamic between the two.
Stephanie White's issue is that her supporters are no longer evaluating her only based on her victories and defeats. They are evaluating whether she appears to have an emotional connection to Clark's ascent to prominence as the franchise's face. Nowadays, a lot of viewers think there is a gap between the biggest star of the Fever and the system that surrounds her. In modern sports, perception is almost as important as outcomes. Whether fair or wrong, that impression continues to develop with each game because of the unprecedented expectations placed on Clark in women's basketball. This team's conservative basketball is not what fans want. Pace, deep threes, transition attacks, and daring passes are what they desire. Safe basketball is not the reason why people watch Fever games. Because Clark is a symbol of unpredictability, they are paying attention. With 2 seconds remaining on the shot clock, she symbolizes the potential for something bizarre to occur from a distance of 30 feet. For many fans, trying to channel that enthusiasm into deliberate, controlled possessions is akin to purchasing a race vehicle and abstaining from driving faster than 30 miles per hour. Colin Cowherd, meanwhile, is igniting the debate because his remarks mirrored what millions of people were already secretly thinking. He made more than just the claim that White is not a good coach. He made the case that organizations must be able to adapt to the talents of different generations.
Sometimes you got to learn how to read the room. Sometimes you have to learn how to read the room and observe what the hell is going on. You also have to have a level of self-awareness of, hey, we're clearly not that good at our damn jobs. This thing does not stop at Stephanie White, Brianne January getting crashed out on because you deserve it. Don't you ever get in the GOAT's way. You're talking crazy. Y'all grabbing a girl when she's celebrating last season, grabbing Caitlin Clark. Who the hell y'all think y'all is? Y'all came to her team. She didn't go over there to Connecticut where the hell y'all, you know what? Don't worry about it.
This is precisely the reason why parallels to athletes like Michael Jordan and Stephen Curry are frequently made. These athletes were successful because their teams eventually came to the conclusion that individuality shouldn't be limited. It ought to be enhanced. Champions came soon after teams truly embraced their identity. Now, fans are questioning whether Indiana is postponing that insight by making an excessive effort to keep things in balance rather than letting their hero run wild. However, amid the frenzy of social media fury, there is another side to this argument that is sometimes overlooked. Despite the national concern around it, the Fever season is still very new, which makes that reality crucial. The season still feels like the beginning of a much bigger story, which is the most intriguing aspect of the whole situation. It is impossible to predict whether this tension would ultimately result in greatness or collapse due to unrealistic expectations. Everyone is aware that the basketball world is now keeping a careful eye on every possession because when a highly scrutinized coach and a generational superstar clash under such intense pressure, the result typically permanently alters a franchise.